Smooth Breakfast with Valentine.
And Ayo, good morning.
Good morning. It's time for us to go into detailed analysis of our newspaper stories. This morning, joining us to do analysis, we have Cheta Wanze. Good morning, Cheta.
Good morning.
You can find him at CHXTA on Twitter. And you have Tunde Okufi at Big Cubes. Good morning, Tunde.
Morning Lagos, morning Valentine.
Welcome. And also Wade at Ring, Nigeria. Good morning.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Lagos.
Good morning, Wade. And to join the conversation, please send messages through WhatsApp.
WhatsApp is 0809 444 0981. That's 0809 444 0981. On Twitter, we are Smooth981FM. Use the hashtag freshly pressed 981 to send in your messages. And also on YouTube, we're streaming live, so please use the live chat options to send us your message.
All right. Our first story is taken from the Guardian Vanguard newspaper and comes to you today for your analysis. A suspected kidnap kingpin is still in the news. That's Wadume Alhaji Hamisu Bala. He was arrested after the fatality of three policemen who were allegedly ambushed by soldiers. And we're following the story in the latest developments. He has indicted other prominent Nigerians, I would say. The APC has been mentioned in this. It says he's not a kidnap kingpin, that he's in the farming business, and he has also been used as a political dog. But there are a lot of details to this story. Your thoughts on this, please?
Yes, he does. He does admit to a lot. I wonder, and I do hope if any of in his confessions, if anything, will actually stick on those he's making these charges against. Because that's what, to be honest, we'll all see. The story describes him as being embroiled between the Nigerian army and the Nigerian police, as instead of, in my opinion, being embroiled in the justice system. But I presume we need a lot. This needs to be investigated, a lot more thoroughly, and his statements versus whatever else can be gathered will go towards that. But beyond anything else, it's a long tale. It's almost like it's a short story, to be honest. If you go through, if you consider the length of it and everything he describes how he started out, how he started. He was born here. He went to primary school. He dropped out in JS3.
How he started the farming business, fish farming,
and all of that. He goes through all of that. It's a typical Nigerian story. When I say typical of large parts of the country, people who haven't had, because of collapse in society, collapse in infrastructure, collapse in education, lack of social safety nets, have had to go through this type of life and then find themselves by chance in a position where they can benefit from criminality. And it's no surprising, which is something that we've been highlighted for years now, that for a lot of people, the gateway into large-scale crime, kidnappings, robbery is unfortunately through politics and the leveraging of politicians. If we're to take his version into account, according to him, he's jejely minding his business. Politicians now come because they see that he's a youth leader in his community, and the governor, that's where he gets his first payday. The governor gives him 6 million. This is a man who dropped out in primary school, who's been managing to farm fish, and suddenly he lands 6 million. Obviously a light bulb is going to open up in his head and say, oh wow,
this is a profitable angle.
Yes. And this is the path, and he's been on that path since then. He claims he's not a kidnapper, but he's worked as a political thug. We know that probably potentially go hand in kidnapping, beatings, harassment, and all of that. He's admitted to providing arms to kidnappers, but not being a kidnapper himself. So there's a lot, to be honest, and it's if to borrow a term, he's singing like a canary. Let's hope that charges will be brought, especially against his very close army accomplices.
Thank you very much, Tunde. Cheta, do you think this will stick?
I think the key thing here is the fact that up until now, not one of the soldiers has been named. Although the military panel that sat on the matter is due to announce its findings today, the fact that there's been this wall of silence, at least name the suspects. You can't tell me that you don't know the name of the captain of the EB barracks or the barracks close to EB. and all of that. So it I just have this sinking feeling that that whole esprit de corps thing, or rephrase, the misuse of esprit de corps, is going to play out again, where the police is helpless and cannot do anything about the army, and this guy will take the fall for everything. We should not lose sight of the fact that the bigger crime that led to this was the murder of 3 policemen by soldiers.
Mhm. Thank you, gentlemen.
All right. Ibrahim has a question on WhatsApp. He's asking, the governor gives him 6 million naira for what? For what? As what? Senior citizen of the state?
Yeah.
Emmanuel,
The way it
Mobilize
works, you're a
youth,
mobilizer. That's
mobilize
the
youth, all sorts of
expression.
things. Plus, he said he promised that he could do prayers, and they thought he had spiritual powers. Do the same regular rubbish Nigerian situation.
Premium Times has this next story. I'll come to you, Wadi, for your analysis on this. Nigerian government to prosecute saboteurs of NSIP, according to presidential aide. This announcement was made at an event, a 13th anti-corruption agenda for the 9th National Assembly that was held recently in Abuja. Miriam Owais, who's the special advisor to the president on social investment, says that the federal government will prosecute those who've been sabotaging or sabotaging their social investment programs around the country, those who are hiding under false identities and whatnot. Your thoughts on this?
Well, I think this is a good development if they actually ensure that they prosecute those who are sabotaging these investments. A lot of all this came about because of a statement that she had made somewhere else, where someone had asked a question about traditional rulers and people in authority collecting bribes in respect of getting these social investment funds to the recipients. And she was trying to clarify the fact that maybe not the traditional rulers, but maybe people who work as leaders are part of it, and they would set up a system that would help them ensure that they are better able to apprehend alleged suspects and prosecute them accordingly. Well, I hope they will put in place the right policies and systems and work with the legal teams and ensure that if this kind of things happen, then those who are offenders will be duly apprehended and prosecuted, because the social investment program is, for me, a key program to create small businesses and ensure that you can boost the economy from the grassroots.
I mean, since this is a move that the government has been using as a metric to sometimes say, track their successes so far in this past years in administrations, you look at the Empower program, for instance, you hear a lot of times the government comes out to give us figures to tell you, okay, this is how many people have been affected and benefited from the Empower program. Some just name one. How hard is it to track these things? How hard is it to identify the individuals?
I was going to ask you a question: that what is the government doing against safeguarding the scheme and system?
Scheme itself.
Even in developed climes, right, with all their systems and processes, it does get abused by people who want to be criminal. And imagine a situation like ours where there are none of simple things like social security numbers, proper identification.
What is your NIN number?
How many people do you know the process of getting an NIN number? Exactly. It took me years, a very painful process. In the end, I only got it because someone was able to bring them to our offices and register here. And then I got the slip, and then the card itself is nowhere to be found. Do you understand? It's a painful process. We don't have these systems. These are the things that safeguard, at least to a degree, and prevent abuse. But if not, and the truth is, one would have to think that probably even the creators don't want that level of
accountability,
transparency.
Because I would hope that they would have, it just feels like putting the cart before the horse. They would have done this metric of tracking, or put a system in place.
It goes to show it's not just this, but quite a lot of programs, you don't think it through, put the processes in place to ensure that you can safeguard a lot of all these things. And like Tunde said, social security number, BVN, even if it's BVN, national identification, a number of all these things. And then even when you say people are collecting bribes, what's the system of paying these people for these programs? Are you giving them cash, Are you paying through their bank accounts, or do you require someone that would ensure you have to sign a paper in his office before the funds can be transferred to you? So a lot of all these things have to be carefully thought through and ensure that we put those right policies in place.
Thank you.
All right, we have some comments here. Bengus says, of course, the reason for the lingering security issues is the connivance of the security operatives, the politicians, and in some cases the locals, with the perpetrators of the evil. Except we deal decisively with those aiding and abetting these crimes, every effort and money spent to fight insecurity will continue to be a waste.
Our next story is from this newspaper. Normalcy returns to Bornu towns after Boko Haram attack. There was an attack last week. The visit to the two towns by correspondents who reported this story showed, according to the report, that people are now going about their normal duties with no visible signs that it was attacked by Boko Haram. How do you allude this development to? What would you allude it to? Just proper security systems in place now, or just the people getting used to the norm, Cheta?
Forgive my cynicism, but it's a secure visits within a military convoy. I mean, I've been on one of those before, so I have a fair
As
idea
a
of how it
pressman.
works. The military, unfortunately, seems to be more concerned about image these days than about doing the actual work. So, Magumeri and Gubbio first, both of them are towns 45 minutes apart, and they are also, the local governments also bear their names. The attacks last Wednesday, which eventually there were some demotions. Two brigadier generals and a colonel were demoted and redeployed, which is the key thing that tells you that something went wrong. They won't something that drastic will not happen if something had not gone horribly wrong. Both towns came under a heavy attack. Now, what is important is that both towns are on the road to Damasak, which has almost in practical terms been ceded to ISWAP, the ISWAP faction of Boko Haram. The real issue here is not these Bon Jovi stories of how the towns have been cleared. The real issue is the motivation of the soldiers to fight, and there's clearly a motivation problem. The problems of poor equipment, the problems of long deployments, which have led to fatigue of soldiers, the problem of late payment of allowances, poor conditions of service, and most importantly, as the Wall Street Journal published in their investigation, which was published a month ago, the ill treatment of soldiers who fall in battle. These are the real issues that need to be sorted out so that we can actually put up a good fight against the insurgents, not joy stories like this.
Thank you, Cheta, for your analysis. And the next story, moving on very quickly, from the Guardian newspaper, reads Buhari presents Nigeria's statement at the TICAD 7. From the Guardian, we have this report that this visit apparently was what got the attention of Nnamdi Kanu, the leader of IPOB, who threatened that the president shouldn't step foot in Japan. But taking us through this story, especially highlighting the presentation made by the president. No, I'm just saying. I mean, it's one of the things that
see. It's actually annoys me. This man lives for publicity, and they will be giving it to him.
But Tunde, your thoughts on the presentation made by the president?
Before he has made a presentation just yet. Before we get to the comedy of the story, let's focus on. So 7 are meeting in Europe, in Paris, the G7. They've invited 3 African nations this time, but in the Far East, in Japan, another 7 are meeting along similar lines, right? Let's come together and see how we can make this union of ours or association better. Now, if you look at Japan, Japan has been doing a lot on the African continent. The 2 Asian powers, Japan and China, to be honest, almost seems like a race between them on the African continent. It's easy to see that today. China is leading, to be honest, in Africa relations. But Japan is not a distant second. They've done a lot. There are a lot of, you can almost say, if you look at it, I mean, you can almost say that the initiatives that you see the Japanese, engaging and investing in will have a longer lasting, impact on the African continent. There's a lot of investment in agriculture, especially agriculture, technology, education, a lot of that. They're not as heavily invested on infrastructure development as Chinese are. But ultimately, the end of this is influence. And they both need resources to drive their economies. And Africa is, ripe, with resources, we know. So there's a battle for influence on the continent, and literally that's what this whole thing is about. It's good. We need to engage with the outside world. We need to be a lot more, we need to be external facing. To be honest, forget all this, the nationalism that's sweeping the world. Actually, we don't even have the luxury for being inward thinking. We need to be outward thinking to go and develop. Now to the comedy of the story, and this is about is it what did you call him? Something from Sudan? Is it Garba from Sudan? We all heard that clip.
That Chata's friend said, yeah.
Yes, that Chata's friend said. Maybe I should even avoid his name today
Yes,
for that
please.
purpose, because his fans just come for me on Twitter. I was like, come on. The only time I've ever blocked people are his people. To be honest, I don't block anyone, no matter what you say. But his people, I said, come on, the noise was too much.
So, imagine what they call me.
Yeah, and you're from you're close. It's ridiculous. He says he's asked for the Japanese emperor to abort his words. Very flowery, and he should abort his invitation to Buhari on the grounds that it is not Buhari, that the man passed away in Sudan, and this is about. I have to read the most absurd, It is kind of disclosed that arrangements had been concluded to cover the deceased by substituting the body double through digitized. This man has watched so much Mission Impossible. Plastic surgery, digitized plastic surgery, in fear that the new civilian regime in Sudan, even ties Sudan in, would not tolerate such levels of impropriety. What concerns Sudan with what's happening in Nigeria?
Conspiracy theories.
Come on, man.
Honestly, I think we should just.
To me, it's a mixture of psychedelic drugs versus too much time.
Well, it might interest you to know that TICAD, that's TICAD 7, it's a Tokyo International Conference on Africa Development. It holds in the city. It's holding in the city of Yokohama from August 28th to August 30. That's Friday this week.
All right, let's take this comment from WhatsApp. Ace from Agor says normalcy returns to Bornu town after Boko Haram attack last week. Seriously, what choice do they have? It's not as if the IDP camps are any safer. If people of that area have any choice, they won't be there. We must fix this for a better life for our citizens. Good morning. All right, let's move on to this story. Another interesting headline here, Wadi, and I heard your comment in passing earlier on whilst reviewing this. EFCC, the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, proposes rehabilitation program for Yahoo boys, also known as fraudulent men.
Internet fraudsters.
Yes, thanks. So New Telegraph has this report. It's a short report, but it's coming from a statement made by the acting chairman of the commission, Mr. Ibrahim Magu. Now, what are your suggestions, please?
We continue to see, we're proposing every day to rehabilitate criminals rather than actually let the justice system prevail. Rehabilitate the prisons, let them be sent to jail if they are guilty, and then let them do their rehabilitation there. You come up with all forms of rehabilitation schemes, and at the end of the day, the resources that we really don't have are being spent on these things. Anybody who is doing wire frauds is a criminal. That, to me, is simple. Rather, we continue to, our educational systems have gone completely under. We're not trying to improve the system so that these so-called university students can actually face their education and come out and be hardworking, law-abiding Nigerians. Like the first story we took, someone who dropped out in JSS 3 today is being celebrated, earning 6 million from a government.
Have you seen the unemployment rate? They finish school. What they come out
but that's what Cheta, we're going in the same direction. The socio-economic balance in Nigeria is completely gone. People come out from schools, no work. What's called unemployment rate is growing every day. we talked about the programs that people are collecting bribes. It's just the same. We're just, and we celebrate all these things.
But don't you think it's supposed to be beneficial? I mean, some of the skills that these guys have are the skills that are probably gotten from places like Harvard.
Yes,
Just
and
to-
besides, let me just highlight. I think it's important for us to highlight one of the things or the reasons why the EFCC chair had said he wanted to propose rehabilitation. One of such is that many of these people are university undergraduates, they are from other tertiary institutions. And if you do say that one of the purposes, one of the benefit, or one of the things that the prison service is meant to do is to rehabilitate criminals so that they can go back into society, do you think this is not more
Rehabilitates
proactive?
the society.
Rehabilitates
They
so-
live in a society that instant wealth is glorified. People throw money about, nobody asks where it comes from and all of that. What is the message that we're sending young children? How many politicians have cases abroad? How many of our top politicians have cases? Quite a number of them. So we've already sent a message that this is right, and then we expect that the young people won't see and learn. I mean, come on.
Another thing I would just finally want to add is this: if you feel these guys are that smart, bring them into the systems to check a lot of all these things for you. It's done all over the world. You get so-called smart criminals and they work for you. I give a typical example: the Czech what's it called, Micah, what's it called, came from that.
Frank Avenue.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
Alright.
all these things are critical at the end
Okay.
of the day.
But I'd love to hear what people think about this in terms of rehabilitating or setting up a rehabilitation program for internet fraudsters.
We have in the pockets of your.
All right. Let's move on to this day news for this next one. Cheta, Presidency defends Buhari's order to ministers, explains roles of Chief of Staff and the Secretary to the Government of the Federation. So apparently, over the weekend, when he defended the order given to ministers during the recent ministerial retreats, that all their requests for his attention should be directed through the Chief of Staff, Malam Abakiari. A number of people have been a bit confused as to what the job description of the Chief of Staff is side by side the Secretary to the Government of the Federation. But in this report, he clarifies his statement and explains the reasons for his order. Can you please take us through this story?
There's nothing to take in the story, actually. I don't know why the story is even a story. It's for me, the story is just evidence of the peace and time politics that we play in this country. On this matter, I criticize Buhari a lot, but on this matter, he's right. It's actually written there in the service rules. The actual text, the approval process for memos going to council shall be handled by the Chief of Staff, who is to review all files and fix appointments for all meetings with the president. Same thing with the governors. The Chief of Staff is the person who basically handles the president's schedule and routines. Then there's the president's personal private secretary, personal principal secretary, PPS shall. So basically, the point I'm making is this is actually the process. But because we play this Byzantine politics of influence peddling and all of that, everything that happens, people want to read meaning into it. On this one, Buhari is right.
Right. So how about the fact that people misconstrued this to mean that his ministers wouldn't have direct access to him?
Because we are playing Byzantine politics. The truth is that the current president's chief of staff is seen as one leg of a power block that is trying to block access for another leg of a power block. These words like cabal, that's what originated during the Abacha era and all of that. So those words are being thrown around, and that's the lens through which people are looking at it.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. We'll move on to our next story. Wade, I'll come to you for this. PwC, PricewaterhouseCoopers, has said to the federal government, develop policies to harness 9 trillion naira remittances. So this day has this report, and the focus is on Nigerians in diaspora and their contribution to the economy and how this can be further enhanced by developing policies by the federal government. Can you please take us through some of the suggestions or recommendations by PwC?
Very important recommendations were made by PwC, trying to put together some form of investment schemes that these people can tie into. Because when you look at it, and then also try and ensure that the systems work properly, because the cost of remitting to Nigeria is actually higher than, or sub-Saharan Africa is actually higher than the global average of about 7.1% by almost 2.5%. critical. When you get investment remittances of $25 billion, it's huge.
That's a huge amount.
It's a huge amount towards supplementing our budget and even growth. So when these monies, you cannot account for how they come in or where they come in and who they go to and what kind of infrastructure that you can put them in, and it becomes very it becomes it doesn't you don't see it properly in the system. They're looking at this flow growing by another 10 to 11 billion over the next 4 years, and these are huge amounts that support the budgets in countries in sub-Saharan Africa, with the Ministry of Finance and the financial sector on how to ensure that these things can be put in the proper bucket and used appropriately.
All right, thank you very much, Ode.
D sends the message on WhatsApp. It said the protocol for dealing with the presidency through the chief of staff is widely known. He didn't have to restate it. Buhari's repetition of what is deemed a trite and clearly obvious is what raises eyelids. It makes it seem as if there is something more. Buhari knows the cabal narrative. He didn't have to feed it. That's what D says.
All right. So $9.6 billion. Here's an update. British firm is listing Nigeria assets for seizure. So this report in the Punch details some of Nigeria's assets that they've identified and can be targeted to recover the money. Cheta, which are some of these assets, and do you think they would actually go ahead and seize these assets?
At least that presidential jet will not agree, so they could finally take on it. They didn't. The article itself didn't list. They just said. They just hinted.
Speculative.
The speculative. The P and IDs hinted on the possibility of seizing Nigerian naval assets or cargoes. Last I checked, we don't have any naval assets that go on the high seas anymore.
Okay.
NNSRR2, which used to go on the high seas, was the one that could have gone, but it has not sailed out of the country, I think, since 2016 or so. It has not sailed out of our territorial waters. I should rephrase, since I think 2016. I'll have to confirm the exact date. But there's precedence for this. When Argentina owed quite a lot, an Argentine naval vessel was seized by the venture capitalists, rephrased by the vulture capitalists, and that's where the issue is. P&ID was there's a hedge fund, VR Capital, which bought a quarter of P&ID sometime last year because they saw this and they were like, "Ooh, that's..." So those guys, they don't calculate their money down, and they must get their money.
Yes,
it's not. So the handling of this whole thing is about the lackadaisical and petty nature of the way we run things in this country.
Yes.
It could have been handled a lot better. It didn't need to get to this. And yes, they will seize some Nigerian assets and sell them to raise that money. VR Capital, that investment, they've calculated, those ones have calculated 30% of this. They are expecting $3 billion. They will get it.
Okay, thank you. Now, very quickly on tax, and then we'll take messages. Tunde, very short story here on outrage as government makes 60 billion naira from new equity tax regime. Guardian reports this, and one of the things that jumps out to me is the complaint of multiple tax for a number of businesses. Can you please take us through this story?
Yeah, so very quickly, to be honest, the government had instituted a sort of a I don't want to say a tax break or a concession out of this. Look, the cost of doing business in Nigeria is high. Yes. Multiple agencies taxing you. So they said, okay, for investments in things, investments in the stock markets, we won't charge VAT because we pay withholding tax and a bunch of other regulatory costs. So let's take this one out to make it a bit more attractive to everyone. I don't think, to be honest, that this is a very wise time to increase the cost of doing business there, because it serves as a disincentive, especially at a time like this when the macroeconomic indicators are not favorable. It's not the time to discourage people from investing in the stock market. So I would say they should renew it again. But this government, they're even thinking about adding VAT to online purchases and looking at it
and increasing the percentage as well. Yeah. Thank you very much, Cindy.
A quick message here. Onoma says, why don't we look at the fact that these Nigerians travel to the US because there are no jobs in Nigeria? So why not work in America where there are jobs? Does this relate to
So he's talking about the fraud cases and why they could have rather taken jobs instead of resorting to crime.
And Biggie from Ketu says, the EFCC can use the boys to track others, not rehabilitation. If the so-called FBI can use high-profile criminals from Pentagon Why can't we? Lessons learned. Thank you, gentlemen, for stepping in this morning for your analysis on Freshly Press 91. That's Cheta at Checkstar, Tunde at Big Hoops, Wade at Ring, Nigeria. Join us next as we talk sports in the locker room, 8:15.
The headlines, the
Okay.
stories.
Thank you very much.
Thanks,
By
guys.
the time we're done in Nigeria, every small criminal group will rehabilitate them, spend government money.